You're listening to Winnipeg's Classic 107. My name is Simon Rusnak. Let the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra set the mood this Valentine's weekend and serenade you with the lovely music of Tchaikovsky, Dvorak, and more. The latest in their Absolute Classics series, conducted by Maestro Daniel Raiskin, who joins me now. Hello.
Hello, Simeon, and hello, everyone. It's great to be here with you again.
Well, it's great to have you back on the show. We were chatting before going to interview, and this is the first time we're chatting in the new year. But you've been very busy. You've been conducting the WSO and an online Winnipeg New Music Festival, and also performing as soloist in the last Pops Orchestra. I have to start there. How did that feel to trade bow for baton?
Well, first of all, I find it ridiculous that we only talk now while I'm already in my 6th week in Winnipeg this year. I actually arrived late night or early morning on January the 2nd. So really when the year just turned a new one. And yes, it's been very busy. The circumstances are such that it makes more sense for me to stay here longer and to do a lot of meaningful work with the orchestra, with the administration, with community. And there were some Masterworks Online concerts. We had, I think, wonderful new music festival in these difficult times. And indeed, first time after 16 years break, I was standing with my instrument in front of the orchestra, not the orchestra, my own orchestra, so to say, and was playing, albeit 4 minutes of music, but it proved to be more difficult to get back to shape than riding a bike after the same kind of break. And but I'm very happy about how it worked, and that was my wish to contribute in any way possible to the concert that I'm even not conducting. And it was a very suitable project, remembering about the grand old times of salon orchestras that were so popular in grand hotels and the cinema theaters. And as a young student, I remember playing in an orchestra like that in one of the last grand cinema theaters in St. Petersburg that actually employed an orchestra like that to play, before the movies and in the breaks if it was a long movie. So it was really fun. And now this weekend on Saturday, a day before the Valentine's Day, we have a program that is, it needs a lot of tissues to wipe out the tears, but also invites people to serenade in the style of old troubadours to their loved ones, and just a really beautiful romantic program. And love is all about romance, and romance is all about love. So I think it's a very fitting repertoire we're playing.
Well, it really doesn't get any more romantic than this. I mean, there's Glazunov, there's Taneyev, there's Dvorak, there's Tchaikovsky. Can we start with the Tchaikovsky, the Andante Cantabile? Can you tell us a little bit about this piece, this gorgeous piece of music?
Well, first of all, I would need to say that all 4 composers on the program are the ones that, since the program is centered around the cello miniatures, all 4 of the composers, to different extent, have written works for cello and orchestra. And actually, Tchaikovsky and Dvorak have written 2 of maybe most played pieces in cello repertoire, the great B minor cello concerto by Dvorak and Rococo variations by Tchaikovsky. And Andante Cantabile, as well as a nocturne for cello and strings, are the pieces that are probably somehow are known to even the people who don't regularly visit the concerts. These are such earworms, such incredible melodies. And I remember myself that the nocturne of Tchaikovsky for cello and orchestra, I first encountered as a kid, regularly the weather report on the Soviet television in the 80s, 70s would be accompanied with a background music, which will be a nocturne by Tchaikovsky from his piano cycle, which later was arranged for cello. So even before knowing that it was Tchaikovsky, I knew the music. Wow. Now the Andante Cantabile is originally the slow movement of the first string quartet, and this quartet became immensely popular from the very first performance, especially due to this wonderful Andante Cantabile. And I think the movement was called for an extra performance during the premiere, and after that was arranged for string orchestra, and Tchaikovsky himself arranged it for cello. And he was not opposed to that. He liked that idea that people were really that way connecting to his music. And there's even an encounter, him writing to his brother, that he was in Vienna and he heard this Andante Cantabile played on flute, which he didn't like so much. And he said, they're absolutely crazy here. They want to hear him play only my Andante Cantabile. So, but it's a wonderful, typical Tchaikovsky with a beautiful theme and development. And I think his connection to cello was very personal. I discussed yesterday with Yuri Hooker, our soloist, principal cellist of WSO, that every time I feel Tchaikovsky uses a cello as a bringer of this wonderful melodic line, it's very strongly identified with his own personality, as if Tchaikovsky enters himself during the performance in the room. And I made an analogy, you know, Chopin didn't write instrumental music otherwise than for piano. But in both concertos for piano, there's always this beautiful bassoon solo in the slow movement. And I always feel that this is when Chopin himself enters the room. So with Tchaikovsky and cello, I think it's when Tchaikovsky enters the room in a way.
Well, that is a really fascinating idea, and not something that I'd thought about. And I mean, I do want to ask you about the cello. Of course, Yuri's such an outstanding player, very familiar, past soloist performing the Dvorak and also the Rococo. I am curious, but I'm a little bit hesitant to ask you as a violist, especially after that fantastic performance just last weekend. There are many who might say the cello is the most romantic of the instruments. Do you agree? Do you feel that warmth and that expressivity of the instrument?
Absolutely, and you know, as much as I love and always will defend viola, I think that lots of composers are attracted and written so great pieces for cello simply because its range and capacity, and also technical possibilities that have been developed in the last 200 years, they really, in its range and possibilities, are probably the closest to human voice. And I'm talking about all the possible human voices, from the very low bass to the baritone, to the tenor, to the soprano, to the coloratura, when the cello is able to play in a very, very high positions, very high register. And I think this is one of the reasons why cello is so popular with romantic composers, but also one needs to realize that it's often the source of these pieces is also the relationship between the composer and a special performer. In case of Tchaikovsky, it would have been Fitzenhagen, who has premiered his Rococo variations, or the pupil of Fitzenhagen, Anatoly Brondukov, who has premiered the Andante Cantabile and Nocturne. That knowledge and that relationship, like later in the 20th century between Rostropovich and Shostakovich and Prokofiev, who written his pieces for him, you know, that was also very important. But I think for me, the cello is, with its shape, with its size, it's really a very kind of complete instrument. And violin is brilliant and virtuoso, but this is very, very human, kind of very, very woman.
And it's all about making that personal connection, especially this time of year. We're heading into the Valentine's weekend. And the last thing I do want to ask you is, you know, you're away from home at this time. Like you said, you arrived here in Winnipeg, January 2nd, and making the most of your time here. But this has to be a very special performance for you. Do you know, will the family be watching? I know you'll be thinking of them, but.
Oh, my family is watching all my concerts, and you know, they always watch it in delay, because by the time I'm on stage, it's late in the middle of the night.
Yeah, a little early.
But they get the link, and they watch it the day after, and they know exactly what I'm doing. You know, it's no secret. It's hard to be away from your loved ones for such an extended period of time, and I feel about myself as if I'm a kind of an anthropological expedition. You know, sometimes people go to Antarctic for 6 or 8 weeks, or you go to a submarine mission. There are more people than, you know, conductors that have to be away from home for a while. But for me, the most important was that during these 6 weeks, I could really connect and do a lot of meaningful work here in Winnipeg, and, you know, with musicians and administration staff, our board, visiting the patrons, you know, along the lines of health restrictions we have to all observe. And this program we're playing on Saturday is also very personal because there are four composers, and it would be hard for me to pick one that I like more than others. And two of them are less known, Glazunov and Sergei Taneyev. But music by Glazunov, Alexander Glazunov, I am one of conductors who was always gladly performing his symphonies and other works. So it's cello, it's Russian, it's romantic, and the Dvorak Serenade is an absolute masterpiece. I think it has been performed very rarely in Winnipeg, and it's an absolute feat. By the way, also uses cello there too, and even with a few measures he entrusts it here and there, you just feel that no other instrument could do that, what he wanted to hear.
Oh, well, it sounds like a really beautiful show. And again, finding that comfort and that companionship and that love in the music. So thank you so much for bringing this to Winnipeg audiences, and wishing you well, and Winnipeg audiences, but audiences everywhere, because of the magic of the online stream. Happy Valentine's Day, Maestro.
Yes, thank you. And you know, we have learned so much about how to best stream our concerts, and our knowledge and technology become better and better. So the quality that you get from us online now, the concert streamed, is very high. So I encourage everyone who still didn't purchase the streaming ticket for the coming Saturday to do so, and also get a very good bottle of wine, a couple of tissues, and prepare for a really nice and emotional night of great music.
What a beautiful show, all queued up. This coming Saturday, February 13th, the stream goes live at 7:30, but again, it typically stays up for 72 hours, so you can watch the show, maybe watch it again. It should be absolutely lovely. For more details, visit classic107.com or WSO.ca.